Okay, welcome back to Podcrash. Today we've got a very special guest, and two guests actually. We've got Vicky Williamson, GB track cyclist, and Kian Imadi wanted to sit in and just have a listen.
I didn't want to sit in. I was begged to come along.
That's a lie.
Dressed for the occasion.
Shut up, Vic.
It's Kian, please. So, Vic, you're very special because you're our first woman on the podcast.
Am I?
Yeah, you need to hold it like you're Beyonce, like really own the mic.
Like, breathe
Like
into it.
this.
That's
Yes.
much better.
Okay.
Hear the difference?
Yep.
Wonderful. So let's kick off. Kian isn't actually a guest this time. He's just a contributor. So we're not actually going to ask him any questions, but he might ask questions. Get off your phone.
He's got a date soon.
I'm not a contributor, so I'm
Okay,
just
he might.
observing. So
This
I'm
is
on
a-
Instagram at the same time.
Priorities.
Anyway, we'll start with the news. Phil, what's your news this week?
My news is that Callum had his car stolen.
No, that's my news. We
That's
talked
my
about
news
this.
as well. It's my news as well.
Yeah, so unfortunately I had my car stolen, along with my British cycling bike, which I still can't find. But yeah, so basically they came in, I went out for a night out with some of the Tour de Yorkshire boys in Wilmslow, and then...
How did that go? I heard you tried to catch some ducks.
We did. There was a lovely pair of ducks outside the kebab shop and in the high street of Wilmslow, and we just thought maybe they want to be held.
Yeah.
They
Maybe.
didn't. So, but they were really hungry and curious as well. I can't mention who was there because they don't want to be mentioned. But Chris Lawless was there, obviously, because he was delighted with himself. But yeah, so anyway, they went into the house and they took the keys, and in the morning the car was gone, and 2 laptops as well. So
But it wasn't because of your night out. That was just an anecdote.
that was a
about the
side
night
note.
out.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Do you know who was really happy about the car being stolen?
I'm sure you would tell me.
Jason Kenny.
Why would
Because
that be?
he used to take his electric charger at the velodrome.
I did, yes.
And-
Which actually, car choice now, because I have got a new car, brings us on to our new topic. Vic, I'm a single man now. If you see a single guy driving a car, what kind of car do you think, oh, that's nice?
I do like Audis. Is that a
Okay.
bit boring?
Well, that's what I've just lost, so that's
Oh God, yeah, I forgot.
that's a little kick in the stomach there. No,
No,
it's,
I'd-
I've,
yeah,
I've,
a
I've
nice
chosen to
Audi.
go with Kian Imadi, who's always had a Golf and got a Golf.
Yours is slightly higher spec than mine.
Just
But the
slightly.
interiors are
What
probably
Golf did she get?
very similar.
Golf R.
Nice.
It depends. Has it got heated seats?
Yes.
Yeah. That's
Okay,
okay.
we're
Mine's
good then.
mine's
we,
got
we
heated
can
seats
work
as
with
well.
that.
Who knew that's all you wanted? So yeah, that
That's all
bodes
I
well
need
for the
in life.
future. In other news, BC haven't asked for my bike back yet because it's stolen, obviously.
That's, yeah.
In other news, Kian Imadi got his ears pierced.
Yeah, yeah.
This is not news. No.
I think this story is news.
Look at them glistening over there. Those little
Uh,
studs.
Do you like them, Vic?
No comment.
First you insult the way I'm dressed. Now the way I look. This is not very
But
nice.
at least you now know the struggle that we have trying to get an aero helmet on over earrings. It's quite difficult.
Yeah, but
The struggle is real.
once mine aren't sore to touch, they'll be absolutely fine.
Do you regret having them?
No, I quite like them to be fair.
Yeah.
Mm.
Your facial
think-
expression.
I think we should go
straight
through.
after.
I think we should go through
They're
the
actually
story.
subtle. No, they're quite nice. I
Thanks,
take
Vic.
my comment
He
back.
didn't get any choice on what's in his ears now. That's just like the studs
know,
to
it's
keep
the
them open.
basic one, isn't
yeah. He can't wait to get a made in Chelsea feather on one side. But yeah, anyway, so the way it came about was we were having a lovely lunch out in town, and we ended up near the Arndale, which is the big shopping centre in Manchester, and it has lots of different markets. And Kian was giving it the big je suis about how he's going to get his ears pierced, and we'd heard this.
No, right.
And it was
But,
almost.
Kian,
No.
let Callum talk.
Let me finish the story, please.
This is slander. Go on.
No, but it's more entertaining. So it's a bit like, when Phil says he's going to buy a Mercedes AMG, it's never going to happen. So then we noticed somewhere that did tattoos and piercings, so we thought perfect, and it looked like the guy had done Ed Sheeran before, amongst others, and it was 15 quid an ear. So then we find this tattoo parlour, we walk up to it, it's just a stall, it's like literally just cardboard walls or something like that in the middle of this shopping centre that's seen better days. And Kian negotiates with the guy, manages to get 2 for 30 quid. Unbelievable deal when it was advertising 1 for 15. And basically went up there and the guy said, yeah, so it's 30 quid, but we only take cash. And Kian went, yeah, okay, I'll see you later. And I was like, whoa,
happy
whoa, whoa,
days.
whoa, 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 hold on, Kian, hold on. I'll spot you for this. I'll spot you. And his face drops. I go away and get some cash, come back in literally 2 minutes. And we watched the magic happen. And he dealt with it like a champ, to be fair. He didn't cry or or do anything really.
He nearly cried when he saw his Google reviews. And he thought he's going to get an infection.
Very low Google reviews.
It was 2.8 stars out of 5.
How did your family react?
No, let's not talk about that.
Why not?
Onwards with the news. I don't.
They obviously
wanna
didn't
talk
react
about
well then.
Anyway, so we'll leave that for now. Is that the news? Vic, have you got any news? We always ask our guests if they've got any news they'd like to announce.
No news. Still looking for a housemate. Hopefully going to find
Yeah,
one soon.
that's like
Callum's
Beyonce.
looking
Vic.
for a housemate.
Like Beyonce.
A room.
Sorry.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah, still on the hunt for a housemate, but my spare room app is on fire at the minute, so
Okay.
I'm going to have someone in properly soon.
What about you, Callum?
What about me?
You looking for somewhere to live?
Yeah, I've recently moved out of my previous accommodation.
Back to your parents' house?
Well, not back. No, it's not a step backwards, Phil, because it's a new house. It's not my old Edinburgh house, is it? So, in many ways, it's a step forward.
You're still living with your
In
mum
Didsbury,
again?
a very desirable area.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
obviously
basically,
not the car
look, no, right, okay. So I was thinking about moving to London. So I don't really want to commit to anywhere just yet until I work out my work situation.
I agree.
And thank you, Vic. And given that your spare room is on fire, I'm sure give it a couple days, there'll be a queue of eligible roommates round the corner waiting to come in, and it will all be good.
Hopefully. I've had some bad experiences.
you had a story about a guy messaging you at 3 a.m., didn't he?
Did he?
So I decided to open up the ad to men because I thought, well, I've got a narrow market here. Not many girls have messaged, so I changed the thing on spare room.
And it's the modern either. It might be fine.
Yeah, I thought I can live with a guy. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
So anyway, I obviously hopefully he doesn't listen to this podcast. I'm sure he won't. Actually, he might. Hopefully not. So anyway, we met for a coffee, had a chat, really nice guy, and I thought, I could actually imagine living with this guy. He's really into sport. He came round, loved the house, and then went away. Anyway, Friday night goes, I go to bed, wake up in the morning. I've got a nice little message. Oh, hi Vic. Was just thinking about you in the room and yeah. I won't go into what else he said.
That's nice if he's thinking about the room as well. Like, he's obviously
it was
it's a
very
good
weird.
deal.
So anyway, I just ignored it, and then the following day he followed it up with, "Oh, just ignore that last message. The weather's nice today, isn't it? Have a nice weekend."
We've got a special surprise for you, Vic. He's here tonight. Come on down.
So yeah, he didn't have the room. So yeah.
Oh,
the show goes on, and then
it's a maybe for now.
Yeah, it's a maybe. So basically, I then changed the ad very quickly back to female only.
Oh, okay.
So sorry, Callum.
Oh.
Not suggesting that you would be like.
Yeah, but if
I've been.
You wouldn't make an exception for a friend. That's a bit harsh.
Sorry. Female, preferably. Maybe Callum.
Maybe. Okay. Well, it's good to know I'm in the same category as the weirdo who messaged you at 3 a.m. in the morning. So now it's definitely time to move on from the news after that killer blow. So yeah, I think a good place to start, Vic, is that what most people might not know, or maybe they do know, is that you didn't come to cycling through the normal means. You're what we call a talent transfer athlete through the Girls for Gold program. Yeah. Can you talk us through a little bit more about that? Because that's more of an unusual step. Cian's been doing it since he was 4 years old.
So yeah, I came through a talent ID program back in 2010. The Girls for Gold program, which was set up by Pendleton. At the time, I was only 15, and basically I came into the talent ID program kind of on a different branch. My athletics coach basically said, "Oh, you've got quite big legs. I think you might be quite good at track cycling."
It's a bit harsh.
And obviously with the success of Beijing and stuff, and I just thought I'd give it a go. And he knew Ian Dyer at the time, who was the head sprint coach. So I came up to Manchester for some testing and put out, something that was okay at the time.
Incredible numbers.
Probably not much over 1,000 watts, but there we are.
But they brought in a whole bunch for you, didn't they? And they were starting to narrow it down.
Yeah. So then that was a process that was kind of over a year, which then narrowed down a bunch of athletes to a final 10, and then I was the one that came out and got put onto the junior team.
Okay.
So yeah.
And then you never looked back.
And then never looked back.
Okay.
And then not long after that, I met Phil at St. Petersburg in Russia at under
you both came on
23
the
/
programme
junior
about the same time.
Europeans.
European championships. Couldn't speak a word of English.
Literally
Only
not
hello,
a word.
Hello and just
Hello.
Hello.
hello. And met Vicky and Dave Daniel and Pete Mitchell.
That's shameful. You couldn't speak more English back then.
I
I mean, you
know,
had
I
you had a
know.
British dad.
The issue was that my dad tried to teach me English, but I was so lazy that I just refused
I'm
to.
glad you
I
finally
refused
admitted
to.
that, because we used to say forever it's because you're lazy and feckless, and you were like, no, it's definitely not.
I mean, it's more because it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to learn a different language. Like you would struggle to learn French now, or
Yeah, but I have no
Spanish.
motivation to learn French.
but I didn't have a motivation back then, did I?
Yeah,
I
but
didn't.
you
I didn't have a need to speak English.
Yeah, but you
in
thought you were
Germany.
about to move to Manchester, and I guarantee your English
Yeah.
didn't get any better in
Well,
the
the
space
decision-
between knowing
the
you were
decision
leaving Germany
really-
and getting to Manchester.
The decision really was only made the month before that,
Oh, right,
so it was
okay.
pretty.
Pretty tight turnaround.
Yeah.
You had to pack
Very
in World of
tight.
Warcraft and get on the English.
I didn't pack out the World of Warcraft. Still played it, didn't I?
That
I
came
guess
to the flats, didn't it?
Yeah.
So did you always come from quite a sporty family? Because obviously your sister is quite good at golf.
Yeah, she's pretty good. She's just got a scholarship at Florida State. So,
Oh.
yeah, she's pretty good at golf. So, yeah, all my family are golfers, really. I broke the trend, I guess. I
Well,
was
with athletics first, and
with
then
athletics,
and
yeah.
then cycling.
And then cycling.
Can you play golf?
I'm okay. I've just not got the patience for it. I think I enjoyed it as a child and stuff, but then having my dad walk around and shout at me every time I hit a bad shot, I was like, this is not for me.
Oh,
Sorry,
dear.
Dad, if you listen to this, but I didn't have much patience, to be honest, and just I wanted to do sprinting and something that was a bit faster. So
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. You know,
I'm
what they
just
say-
too aggressive for golf, I think. Yeah.
Well, no. Sometimes we go to the driving range, and you can take a bit of aggression out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Kean likes to think of
Yeah.
himself as a bit of a golf coach.
I'm leaving if I'm just a punching bag for all these jokes.
What's that famous golf shot in the movie where he like does a run up to the golf?
Is it Happy Gilmore with the
Yeah.
hockey
Kim-
stick?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Kian tried to teach me golf, and he literally ran up to the golf ball and hit it and said, "This is what you need to do." And he was that serious about it.
Yeah. So
Am I allowed to tell my version of this story now? Or
No,
is it-
you're
okay,
cut off
right.
now. So yeah, so obviously you didn't go down the Kean and Maddie route of
No.
golf either. But yeah, so how did that feel breaking into a new sport? Because obviously you started with athletics, and I presume you felt quite at home there.
Yeah.
And then you're into this totally new sport. Like it seems like just such a new beginning for like for instance, I can't imagine transferring at this stage into a completely new sport. I mean,
Bobsleigh.
bobsleigh could do.
Rugby.
Curling.
It's
You
because
wanted-
it's because
you wanted
cyclists are
rugby.
not are the least talented of all other athletes.
No, that's
So
a very harsh thing.
You can transfer from athletics to cycling because you have coordination, but cycling generally,
It's
like
very specific. isn't it?
cycling's if you're good at cycling, it doesn't mean you'll be good at anything else really. Whereas I think if you're
Yeah,
a
I
powerful
would agree with
athlete
that. I think
in
yeah.
shot put or
I've become less of a rounded athlete since I've started cycling.
less
I would say
athletic.
less.
don't look at me like that,
athletic,
Phil. It's
yeah.
true. It's
It is.
What-
I've
what-
seen
what
you
other
try and
what
do
other sport would you
dynamics,
do?
Phil.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not
Uh,
very pretty.
Whereas if you look at
Chess.
Katie and Vicky do their stuff, they're actually quite good in the gym and quite good dynamically and stuff.
Yeah, they are actually.
Yeah.
They put most of us to shame, and especially the endurance riders.
Yeah.
Who look like a wobbly piece of spaghetti trying to deadlift.
But you wanted to just pick up rugby for next season, didn't you?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, yeah.
That's a good shout.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, cheers.
Go for it.
Someone believes in me.
That head is a battering ram just
Yeah, but that's what they don't realise. It's like
in the ruck. Oh,
It's
is that ruck?
the girth inside this skull. Unreal. It's like a woodpecker. Unstoppable. Anyway.
Right, give it a go. Give it
No,
a
but
go.
anyway, so I was trying to interview Vic before everyone jumped on the big head bandwagon. So did you find cycling a welcoming place to come into? Like, what was the atmosphere like in athletics compared to moving into cycling? Because I think cycling's got a real nice kind of community feel to it, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think I started obviously when I was a lot younger, and I was pretty intimidated coming into literally effectively going straight into the GB squad, somewhere that I'd never got to when I did athletics. But I think, well, you were on ODP at the time, weren't you?
We were incredible specimens, Kian and I.
And Kian.
It was obviously quite intimidating to walk into.
And
6 and 8 packs everywhere.
the setup was really good, and we had John Norfolk as a coach, and I think
Great personality. Yeah.
he was really great, and just it was just a lot to get my head round, and just basic things like not wearing knickers with cycling shorts.
No, that wouldn't go down well.
That didn't go
You
down
don't wear
well.
knickers.
Sorry, I think
Under
I
a chamois.
I think
Yeah.
Under a
yeah,
shirt.
What you don't wear underwear under the chamois?
Oh, here we go.
Yes. I think I ruined that joke by saying that wouldn't go well, and then you jumped on it once I'd already confirmed that wasn't the way to go.
Okay.
Because
then.
these were things I didn't have a clue. I remember we all rocked up for the first track session, And we were all sort of like, oh God, this is uncomfortable. And then I think we had like, John had an awkward conversation with us and was like, sat us all down and said, girls, you don't actually wear underwear. And we were all like, what the hell? Like, you don't wear anything. And then it was, so we obviously all went and took our underwear off and just had the chamois on. And then
John's still there.
John was not there. And then by the end of the week, I think he'd done a Tesco shop of numerous Vaseline pots because we were all struggling.
I made that mistake actually when I started out.
Yeah.
I think everyone does, to be fair.
Yeah.
I did as well.
Now I started with underwear.
Everyone,
I was like, what have I signed up for?
But the more you learn about sport and speaking to other people is the more you learn that underwear isn't a factor at all. Like badminton players apparently don't wear underwear. They just wear these like netted shorts.
Really?
Yeah, and then obviously there's that famous video of that bobsleigh person where their suit
rips,
snaps open. I don't think there's much underwear in sport. Diving, there's not much underwear.
Why do you think that is?
A lot of chafage with underwear.
The chafage, yeah.
So that's an interesting point. So going back again to Vic, we keep getting distracted. So that motivation to move away from athletics towards cycling, was that because you wanted to try something different, or were you motivated by being successful and winning something in a sport? Like, what was it? Was it for the, because it's, I guess I started out cycling because I loved it and I love going fast, and those are the community aspects. But for you, was it that prospect of success that kind of lured you in there?
That was definitely a part of it. I guess I watched Beijing and things like that. But the main reason for looking for another sport from athletics was because I just kept getting injured. It was quite a high impact sport. I had shin splints, fractured my hip, and was just having constant injuries. And I just thought I could do with trying something else. And at the time, I'd obviously been offered the chance to go up and get tested for cycling, and it was so low impact that it would have been the perfect job. And it just happened so that I turned out to be okay at it, or tested okay anyway. So.
We're back. Cian has left, so the podcast can continued uninterrupted. So yeah, he's off. Cian used to have a little bit of a soft spot for you, Vic.
Did he?
Slightly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is awkward.
I was just waiting for him to. I was just waiting for him to leave.
Okay.
So, yeah. So that's something to know about. I said used to. That's like, we've known each other a long time. We can come out with this stuff now.
Yeah, but
Everyone's
how am I going to
comfortable.
make a transition from Cian liking Vicky to what events did you do in athletics?
You just literally just did it.
I know.
I did hurdles and tried to do multi-events, and actually competed against Katie Marchant,
Currently on the Team GB team.
Yeah, we crossed paths at some point, but she was a lot better than me. And yeah, I couldn't really throw, so I struggled to get the points in the field events. I could do long jump and then just died a death in the 800. So yeah, mainly sprint hurdles. I got some English schools medals, so I was okay at that. But yeah, just kept getting injured, hence the look for a new sport. I knew I wanted to do sport ideally as a career. So again, when the cycling opportunity came up, I was very thankful and yeah, jumped on it. So
we talk about like careers a lot of the time because we're trying to figure out what Phil's going to do with his life. But
After cycling,
yeah. So say if you hadn't worked out athletics, hadn't worked out with cycling, what do you think you'd be doing that now? What would Vicky Williamson be up to?
I don't know actually. I think I probably would have done a sports honours degree.
Okay.
I've deferred a place at Brunel, which is where I was going to go had I not got onto the academy programme. But I'm also quite into interiors, so whether I would have gone down that route.
Okay.
I'm not sure. That's one, again, I feel I need to think about what I'm going to do after cycling.
No, fair enough.
well, you could probably make a career out of your Under Armour sponsorship. Like you're already going to events.
There was only a matter of time before this came up, wasn't it?
Phil,
it's not insert.
You've got a chip on your shoulder about Under Armour sponsorship.
Have I?
Yeah.
Tell me about it then, because
I remember so there used to be a given when you got onto podium in the British cycling team. There used to be you'd get an Adidas sponsorship and you'd probably get a Jag, like on a really cheap lease. And then by the time Phil and I moved up to podium,
it's all gone.
It was all gone. Because they did some market research and they found that the people who are in charge, like the people who make the decisions as to whether to buy Adidas or not, 80% of them were women. So they decided to shift all of their ambassadors, all of their contracts over to women, with the exception of like the Brownlees and a couple of others.
Jason Kenny.
So Jason Kenny got dropped.
Oh,
Is
really?
this
I
when
didn't
he got
actually know
dropped
that.
because of that?
Yeah, that's why he got dropped.
Oh,
because
really?
they changed the market direction, which makes a lot of sense.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, don't get your knickers in a twist about Under Armour.
No, was a serious question.
He did seem genuine, actually, to be fair.
Oh, really?
I did seem genuine. Yeah.
But day to day on the track, he's quite bitter, isn't he? Like,
I'm not.
Not personally to me, I don't think.
Just to you because you wind me up every single day.
no, fair enough. Let's take it back to where we were because we keep skipping around. So I think one bit we possibly missed was with the Girls for Gold program. Can you explain a little bit about that and what the need came about for that? Because there isn't any of that for men, and it doesn't exist in certain disciplines for women as well. So what was the point of the program?
The aim was to basically take powerful strength athletes, females, from, I guess, other sports and see if they were good at bobsleigh and track cycling. I think there might have been one other sport, but basically there is a massive, I still think there's a big imbalance between male sprinters and female sprinters. I'm sure people that follow the cycling world are aware that the female track sprint program aren't quite on par with the men at the minute. I mean, we are getting better now. We've got a strength in depth, I would say. We've got quite a few girls on the academy now and 3 of us on podium. So the numbers are getting better, but that was the need was really just to find power athletes. And I can understand why, I guess, females don't really enter into that side of things. Again, there's the image of masculinity, which is still, I think, still an issue with women and why they kind of go down the endurance route.
Yeah.
But I think now more than ever with CrossFit and things like that, the masculine look and the power athlete and strength and weight training is becoming, I guess, more trendy and more socially acceptable. So girls aren't afraid to put on muscle and have bigger legs and have a bum, I guess. So hopefully that's going to just increase numbers and make.
Do you think that was the
more.
only barrier to it? Was it as simple as an image thing as to why there weren't more kind of female sprinters coming through?
Not really. I think it's just a very niche sport to get into. Obviously, I came through a talent ID program, but unless, well, I don't know how you guys feel, but unless you live near a velodrome or have done it from a very young age, it's so specific to get into. And then obviously you've got the equipment. Unless you're on the GB squad, you've got to fork out for a bike, shoes, and it's not as easy as just buying a pair of trainers and going for a run or joining an athletics club. It's quite specific.
But it's got quite a good reputation, that program now, because there's like so you and Katie, and I think Lizzie Arnold and who got bronze again in the skeleton? It'll come to me.
Yeah.
D, starts with D.
Yeah, Laura Dees.
Yeah, that's
Laura
it.
Dees,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think they came through the same program as well.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting how successful it's
But I
been
don't
over
think
these
there are
years.
many girls that probably want to become a track cyclist. Because
Yeah.
They would never think about it. So I guess you just need to, like with programs like yours, the talent ID stuff, you just need to go around and test girls, and that's how you find them.
No, I think they're really successful. I mean, even we've got Millie Tanner, who's now on the academy program. Again, she came from swimming, and across a lot of sports, I think there is a lot of talent ID people. Yeah.
How long was it until when you first got on the program until you raced your first race?
I think off the top of my head, I got onto the program end of 2009, and then by the summer of 2010, I kind of got chucked in at the Europeans and then Junior Worlds.
How did that go?
Not actually that bad. I broke 12 seconds for a flying 2 at Junior Worlds in Monte Chiari.
That's pretty good.
And I remember John Norfolk was just super excited, and I was like, I didn't really have any idea, and I was like, okay, what? John was like, that was really good, and I was like, what? Just blissfully unaware. And then me and Becky went on to pick up a medal in the under 23 team sprint, I think.
2000.
That year. Or
2010 in
yeah. So I'd gone up an age group, and I think Becky pulled that home.
Oh, okay.
I will admit my opening lap probably wasn't the sharpest.
Well,
but
it's a team event. Like you only, there's no point in one person being flying. 2 of you need to set a time. So when did you feel as if your breakthrough came in the sport? I guess was it the World Championships? Was it in St. Petersburg? Like when did you feel as if you had stopped being an outsider and became like an established cyclist instead of a athletics person transferring? I guess.
I guess when I made my first senior debut, which would have been the 2013 World Champs in Minsk.
Okay.
That was my first senior worlds team, and I guess that was the first time that I kind of thought, oh, I must be okay at this. I'm in a world champs team. But even then, still, I do remember thinking that Becky was a million miles off kind of where I was, and I had a lot of work to do still. But yeah, as of then, I guess I felt more part of the team, and then I went into doing the World Cups the season after, and then became established, I guess, on the podium.
You did pick up a bronze medal or silver medal?
Yeah, bronze actually
Bronze
at Minsk, yeah.
So it's not just making the team, so you actually medaled.
Yeah, don't be shy on this. Sing your praises on this podcast.
Okay.
No, I think that's kind of the thing though. Is I think your first World Championships is really special though, and I think it took me a little bit longer to get there than you, Vic. So all credit to you.
Thanks.
But no, I think, and then you realise that it just takes it to another level. It's above a World Cup. It's above a European Championships. Like, did you get that feeling that you were kind of really chucked in at the deep end, and that was your time to perform?
Yeah, no, I think again it's the pressure that you put on yourselves. I mean, I was filling the shoes of Jess Varnish at the time because she was out with a back injury. And I thought, oh my God, I need to do something good here. Like I've been picked for the team, and
well, I guess you and Becky had that as a duo basically, because it was Vicky P and Jess Varnish that you were trying to fill.
Yeah, definitely. I think we just wanted to perform. We got on really well off the bike as well, which helped I think as a team, and we just wanted to deliver a smooth ride, and we were lucky to come away with a medal. Yeah,
no, for sure. And then I guess that's 2013 World Champs.
Yeah.
And then I guess the 2016 Games becomes like a viable goal, I guess. It becomes like something that's you're really targeting from that point.
Yeah, that was the aim, was to hopefully get to Rio.
Yeah. But so let's talk about that lead up into Rio a little bit then. Because it seemed like it was, I mean, there was a lot of tension in the team, like to bring everyone's memories back a little bit. This was the beginning of the famous Jess Varnish incident at the World Championships, and I think that was probably the least from all that pressure that you guys were facing, because you were really struggling to qualify in the whole lead up to the Rio Olympic Games, and obviously you were part of that qualifying part as well before your accident, which we'll get onto. so tell us about the pressure that you felt under that period to try and qualify.
I guess it started in 2014. Is that when the qualification period starts? And I think we had sort of the B team effectively was sent out earlier on to the races like senior Europeans and the first few the first few World Cups. So we were kind of on the back foot to begin with, and then as we came into 2015 and we were looking at the qualification points, we knew that we needed to deliver a medal performance effectively at every World Cup to be in with a chance of making the Rio team or qualifying a team sprint. So yeah, it was quite a high tension, definitely, but not only between us four girls, but also we just wanted to make sure we got that spot. And I don't think it was anyone's fault that we didn't. It was just we were all over the place in terms of people switching in and out of positions, and we just couldn't have enough consistency in training, which meant that in races things kept going wrong. I mean, I'll own up, I think I'd pulled out of the gate in Colombia and things like that. So we all played a role in, I guess, why we didn't qualify. It was no one's fault as such. It was.
And did you find that high tension environment productive for you, or did it sometimes take away? Because that was sort of an interesting point that Chris Hoy brought up, that like it's so competitive just to get, before we talk about qualifying, just to get yourself on the start line with a GB jersey, and that competition can either make you or it can destroy you. Like depending how intense it gets. Did you think it overstepped the mark occasionally, or do you think it was productive?
No, I definitely think it did. And me and Katie now, we look back on it quite a lot, and I think back then we spent too much time almost worrying about being the best in, amongst the GB girls, that we kind of forgot that the rest of the world had moved on. And I definitely think we spent too much energy on almost fighting with each other to get the spot, when actually we could have done with more backing each other so that we qualified the team, and then whoever went. But it was, it could have been a lot more productive. And I think this time round, we're aware of that, particularly me and Katie being, I guess, we're now the senior girls on the team. We're aware that environment is not great, and is not what we need to qualify, basically.
It's pretty hard to because I'm in the situation now where you need to actually make sure first you're in the team. So it's pretty hard to look at it like in the long term, where you think, oh, I need to be fast in Tokyo, but you need to make sure you're the fastest in every single training session, every World Cup you go to. So it's hard to have the view long term, because you want to be in the team in the first place.
But it's I guess you probably have some advice for Phil in terms of it's about finding that balance and not changing positions, about trying to make the team as a unit go quicker. Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, I guess, but I'm in the same boat as Phil. It's obviously I've been out with injury and stuff, but I'm aware that obviously you're conscious every day, again, as Chris said, of you want to be going the best in training, and it's almost like you end up or can end up going into this, position where you're almost self-tapering yourself, just so that you go a little bit faster in training, so that your times are slightly quicker on. I mean, everyone's guilty of doing it, especially coming up to a race and stuff. If seeing Europeans is in 4 weeks' time, the taper suddenly gets earlier and earlier because you're just desperate to start being laying down the fastest times to. I think just to stick your nose
explain that for listeners, I think people don't often understand that. Like the best way I think of describing like being a sprint athlete is that you kind of put in all this work for 10 months of the year, and it's kind of a little bit of a gamble as to whether you get to that taper, which is where you take the training out and you start getting the quality. You put in all this work, all these hard miles, all this hard work in the gym, and then you start taking it all out as closer you get to the competition. And then you have this kind of window, and for some people it's a couple of days, for some people it's a month or 2 months, where you're absolutely flying. So when we talk about like timing the taper, like sometimes when the team competition's so tough, some people can end up tapering and peaking just to get in the team, and then when it comes down to the competition, it all falls to bits.
I think I'm guilty of having to do that almost, because I think I need, in a taper, I need quite a lot of the volume to come out, but then it's almost like if the test day and selection day is 2 weeks before the actual race, I would then need to taper and everything around that selection date, but then would probably run out of steam when it comes to the race. I don't know how you feel about that, Phil.
We've all done it. But I guess that's where you have your psychologist.
I don't think I've done it.
Come on, you must have done it.
No, because the selection day for Rio and a whole bunch of other ones, I didn't know what was happening. It just happened that everyone from the office was sitting in the stands, and I was like, oh shit, something must be going on.
I remember that.
Yeah.
But it's a lot clearer now, isn't it? We know kind of this is, there's a hit out on this day.
Yeah.
Whoever's fastest goes. So
it's more when you're younger and you just want to be in the team. That's when I've done it.
Yeah.
And you just start panicking. But I think now you've got a psychologist and stuff. You just probably speak to them about it, about like the panic.
It kind of comes with age as well. That's probably what you're saying with you and Katie looking back. Like hopefully that comes across to the the younger women in the team, that it's about the long view. It's not about the next competition. It's about the Olympic Games.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's continue down that little timeline, and obviously you weren't in contention for the Olympic Games due to a pretty catastrophic accident. Can you talk us through the kind of story of that, I guess?
I'm sure a lot of people have heard it, so I'm sorry if I'm a bit repetitive with it. So
your mum's calling. Do you want to pick that up?
No.
She's going to listen to this and she'll be devastated.
On January the 9th, I was sent out to Rotterdam with Elise. Ellie Richardson.
Who's got a beautiful new baby boy.
Yes, she has. Congrats, yeah. So she was guesting with GB, and basically we got sent out there just for some race experience, I guess, and to have a good time. And then in the final of the sprint, unfortunately, I collided with Alice Lickley, now Olympic champion, actually.
Now retired as well.
Yeah.
Can I ask a little question before we get to that event? So I remember looking back, you weren't particularly happy to be going to this event in the first place.
No.
Can you tell us why that was?
Again, it was selection issues, and I think in training I'd been going pretty well, and then at a Glasgow Revolution I'd done a pretty good flying too and stuff, so I was under the impression that I was going to be selected for the final World Cup, which was in Hong Kong, but unfortunately I wasn't, which then meant I went to Rotterdam.
Which, so to explain where a 6 day would fall in the category of priorities is pretty low, it would be fair to say, in this instance. You'd much rather be at the World Cup in Hong Kong.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I guess, going to a 6 day, when it's a choice between that or a World Cup basically means you're not in the Olympic, you're not in the A team, you're not in the Olympic team at that point.
Yeah.
Was that like a few weeks after Hong Kong World Cup, the 6 day, or was it around the same time?
It was actually the same weekend because I remember the guys. Or they were out in Hong Kong definitely because I remember them FaceTime.
Yeah.
It's FaceTime when I was in the hospital bed.
Yes. Was I?
I think so. We were like in the
I
lobby.
remember. Yeah, I definitely got a print screen of your
Well, that's
FaceTime.
impressive. You can remember it better than me because you must have been full of all kinds of painkillers at that point. But then again, the 6 days still a little bit of an opportunity because it's still a stopwatch and it's still a 200 meter every day. So did you manage to kind of reframe your thoughts before you kind of got there, thinking like, you know, stuff those guys who've gone to the World Cup, I'm going to show what I can do in Rotterdam?
Definitely. I mean, there wasn't like a flying 200, which was a shame because I'd obviously gone quite well in Glasgow. I think just the week before or a couple of weeks before. But Ellis at the time was obviously sort of meddling at the World Cups and stuff. And I thought to myself, if I can beat Ellis here, you know, that would actually look pretty good pretty good for me that I've put down a good race and I've beaten her. So again, I twisted it to that kind of look and thought it's more about if I can win this and finish ahead of Ellis, I think that will still speak for me.
Well, it's like if you can't lace the stopwatch, you lace the people that are there.
Yeah,
I guess it's
definitely.
It's like kind of very good second best, isn't it? So we went up for that. Well, you went up for that race against Ellis.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of memories of that experience at all, or is it just kind of black? Is it?
Yeah, literally. All I remember was holding on to the fence literally before we got to roll up to the line, and some guy asking if I wanted to down his beer, and I was like,
maybe.
No thanks. So yeah, no, I don't remember anything. And then the next thing after that was being wheeled into the hospital, and Ellie.
You were awake going into the hospital?
Well, I was kind of in and out of consciousness a bit, and just on another planet, and just said to Ellie, like, I thought it was funny at this stage, and was like, "Oh, can you take a picture of me for Bants?
Dear.
And she was like, I mean, she did take one, which is I've got on my phone, which is quite funny. Well, it's not really funny, but I've got blood sort of down my face with my thumbs up. But
it's kind of if you wouldn't laugh, you'd cry kind of thing, isn't it? So I think that's always been quite good about you. You've got to see the light in the situation.
You have to really, don't you? And then I think, I mean, I don't know how much detail you go into. I think the surgeons and stuff diagnosed me to begin with I think she's broken a few ribs. So Ellie was conversing with Justin and my parents and was saying, oh, you know, she's crashed. It doesn't look great, but she's just broken a few ribs. And then she'd then come back half an hour later and say, oh, I think it's a bit worse. She's broken her neck. And then when the full diagnosis came out, Justin, Richard Freeman, who was the doctor at the time, and my mum all got on the next flight and were like, yeah, it's pretty bad. We better get out there.
Well, that's so I kind of thought, you know, because if you look at the footage from the time, you know, as a cycling fan, when the screens come up, you know it's pretty serious. Yeah. And you know, from looking at the live stream when we were trying to figure out what was going on, like all you can see is these screens surrounding what you know is
like a little
pop-up
tent, I think.
Yeah,
I've
which
seen
is for
pictures,
the best, which is obviously for the best anyway.
Yeah.
But like, normally when you crash, you just get up, like.
Well, I think actually, someone said to me, or the commissaire said, I actually tried to stand up. Obviously, have no recollection, but I tried to stand up, and then I think someone shoved me quite quickly down to the ground.
Medically shoved you back down.
Yeah.
Laid you back down.
Yeah, because at this point, well, I'm sure people might have seen pictures. There was blood kind of streaming down the track out of my back and stuff. So
you've got a list there of your injuries.
Yes, I have. I've dug it out.
Do you want to list them for
this will be the only track rider in the world who's got like a more impressive list than a BMXer. So go ahead.
So I had a right-sided SIJ joint fracture and dislocation, C3 pedicle fracture, C5/C6 disc prolapse, C4/C5 intra and supraspinous ligament injuries, L5 to S1 facet dislocation, multiple fractures of transverse processes, L1 to L5, L4 to L5 spinous process fractures, small liver laceration, degloving injury on my right flank, and a right-sided retroperitoneal hematoma, to be precise.
Oh, yeah, well, the hematoma is the least impressive bit on that list, to be honest. So, but to put that into layman's terms, we're talking like C1, C5, L1, all this.
Yeah, so basically...
It's basically a broken back.
Yeah, broken neck, broken back, and broken pelvis.
So those numbers are each individual. If you feel down your spine, they're each individual bits. So there's multiple fractures there.
Yeah, sorry, that was a bit technical.
No, it's all right. No, just to try and break it down. And so, like, again, and to try and relate that commonly, I guess some people would call it like kind of car crash injuries, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was compared really to like a motorbike accident. Really? Yeah. Or car crash.
So why do you think there was such a massive impact? I mean, it seems a bit like a freak. Is it a freak accident, or do you think the sport's getting more dangerous? Obviously, we've had Christina Vogel have a really unfortunate accident as well in track cycling, but like why? Like, have you managed to kind of articulate or put together why you think there was so much forces at play that ended up in such a catastrophic injury?
Again, I don't think the sport's necessarily getting more dangerous, but I think in my case it was just a particular freak injury. It was very unlucky. Personally, I don't feel the 200 metre tracks are as safe as the 250. I guess it was what can be considered a pop-up velodrome at Rotterdam. It's like putting a velodrome in like the Birmingham NEC arena or something like that. And for me, going flat out round the corners, even in the earlier races, I remember it felt sharp and it felt quick and it was difficult to hold my line. So yeah, I don't know. I was unlucky in the sense that I did have such bad injuries, but at the same time was obviously lucky that I came out on the other side. But yeah, I wouldn't say that the sport has necessarily got more dangerous. Obviously, I've got a thing now against 200 tracks.
Yeah, no, understandable.
I won't be riding on one of those anytime soon, but yeah.
And we're back. And we were just talking about the video off air. It's professional, isn't it? And I'd actually never seen the video, so we obviously heard Vic had this catastrophic crash. Like, to be genuine about it, like life-changing crash. And we'd never ever seen the video, so we've just watched it now. What were your thoughts, Phil?
Terrible. My first thought really came into my mind that you've never, or you've been told that you would never ride a bike again.
Yeah.
And well, obviously, yeah.
Well, no, it was bigger than that. It wasn't just ride a bike. Like, did they?
Yeah, it was. I guess the first few days was kind of, am I going to be paralysed or not? And I think that I crashed on the Saturday, and I think I got confirmed on the Tuesday, Wednesday that I kind of got feeling back in my feet, so I actually wasn't paralysed. But yeah, I think the main thing to begin with was I was going to be lucky to just not have chronic pain for the rest of my life. Tuesday,
Wednesday, that's still quite a long way, because did they come in and they kind of prick your toes or something like that to test if you've got feeling there?
Well, for me it was I just couldn't move.
Oh wow!
Move my feet. So but again, obviously the risks then still lied with the surgery and stuff. So there was obviously still a risk, I guess, until I was out of hospital that I could have been paralysed. But I think that's on most surgery notes when you sign up for a back operation. One of the the side effects is, well, potentially paralysis. So yeah, it's not very nice to think
I think doctors
about.
always tend to make the like they always kind of give you the worst outcome.
Yeah.
Because then there's only up from there, I guess, a lot of the time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I think especially with athletes, they underestimate it a lot. So like obviously they would have said like you'll struggle to ride a bike again, you might be in pain for the rest of your life, and look at you now. It's like it's a complete turnaround.
I think my surgeon quickly worked out that I wasn't normal as such. I think he'd only Mr. Cyan, credit to him as well. He's incredible, but yeah, I think he quickly worked out that I was not your average person.
What do you mean by that? Because I think people often try and dig down as to what makes an athlete, and I think obviously you being an athlete must have helped your recovery no end.
Yeah, definitely.
But is it like, what do you mean, physically or mentally or both?
Both, I would say. I think the main thing was that I went into the surgery in sort of peak physical condition. I had a good amount of muscle mass. I was healthy, and it was actually the muscle mass and the density of my bones that actually stopped me from, I guess, getting paralysed, because I think I was just my bones were so strong. I mean, I know I broke them, so they can't be obviously that strong, but the surgeon said I was so well protected with muscle and things like that, and the density of my bones, which actually saved me from having a complete spinal cord injury. But the breakages in my neck were 2 millimeters from cutting my spinal cord. So it was a close shave.
You were very lucky.
Very lucky, yeah.
If you look at Christina Vogel, she knew straight away she was paralyzed,
Yeah.
didn't she? She said in an interview.
Oh, did she?
She crashed.
She couldn't feel her feet, could she?
Yeah, so you were talking about Christina Vogel knew immediately.
Yeah. She said in an interview she crashed and she was awake at the time. When she crashed, she didn't pass out, and she knew immediately, like, I'm paralyzed, I can't feel my legs. And
I think it was when the someone took her shoes off, and she knew when he'd stepped away. She didn't know her shoes had been taken off. So yeah, she knew.
So
then.
you were actually
on a side
quite
note,
lucky on that.
What is the fascination that when you have a crash, take your shoes off? Like, have you ever, like, if you're crashing and you're lying on the floor, everyone's like, I've got to take your shoes off. Have to take your shoes off.
I don't know
really
why.
Understand it. Yeah.
No, I don't.
It was because they're so tight or something. I don't really understand it. But so I guess going back to that mentality bit, I guess from the point that you were told you might never ride a bike again, was that a bit like kind of did you take that as motivation, as in a weird way? You were like, I'll show you guys, I'm going to get out of this hospital bed, I'll be going to get back on the bike, or was it? Or obviously you must have been pretty upset at the time.
Yeah,
like,
I think
where did you sit?
I don't know, a bit of both really. I remember obviously as I came round and stuff in hospital, I think I had visitors and stuff come in on the Tuesday, and that was the first time I actually was a little bit with it and could speak to people. And I remember Richard Freeman saying, Rio is off the cards, and I was like, no, it isn't. I was like, I'm gonna still try. Yeah. But I think I was just so unaware of exactly what I'd done. I was kind of like, I'll be out of hospital in a few weeks and get back in the gym, and I'll, it's only a few months away, I'll be fine. That didn't happen 3 years later.
Yeah. So then you got medevaced back to the UK eventually, I guess.
Yeah, so I spent about a week in Rotterdam and then flew back via air ambulance to the... Don't
sell it short, it's a private plane.
Yeah, it was. It was not a very nice experience.
Oh, was it not? No, I can imagine not.
Turbulence.
yeah, not the best.
So yeah, in Rotterdam as well, I had... The only surgeries that I had out there were the pelvis pin, just to stabilise that, and then they closed up the large flank wound that was on my side. And
then I guess at this point, this is when... Was this more NHS territory, or is this when the kind of UK sport health system fired up into life? Who was taking care of you when you came back into the UK?
It was all done via the NHS actually.
Oh, really?
Richard Freeman had kind of been on a mission to find the best spinal surgeon in the UK, and actually ended up with Mr. Cyan at Stepping Hill Hospital in Stockport. So not only was it close to home, but he was actually Rich's top pick.
Oh, really?
Which was actually pretty handy. So
that's amazing. And then I guess then your psychology changed. When did it change from going to be thinking about, I'm going to Rio, I'm going to win, to thinking
I'm in it for the long haul?
Well, not even like, was it even as simple as like, I'm going to survive, I'm going to get better? Like, when did that shift occur? Because it sounds like your like athletic mentality got you through it, and it's that sole focus. But it's got to be a hell of a shift from going to a competition to thinking, I'm going to get back on the bike.
Yeah. Again, from I guess when I got back to the UK, and I obviously had the final back surgery and stuff, I realised that it was going to be just a fight to even walk, I guess, unaided, or kind of walk in a straight line. So I think I did have to change the mental approach and realise that it was going to be a long shot for me to actually get back and be an athlete again. So
because I remember seeing those pictures, I don't know where they came from, but like maybe it was from your blog or something like that, and I think you've got don't take offence to this, but you've got like a Granny Zimmer.
Yeah.
But you can if you look at your face, the amount of pain that's in that face, like you just want to like sit you back down and stroke you on the head and say it's all going to be okay, we don't have to walk today.
Yeah, no, that was actually quite a bad point, because I think I'd laid flat for 3.5 weeks, and literally, and by flat I mean no degree of incline was allowed on the bed. I literally had to be completely flat, and then log rolled by 5 people every few hours just to make sure I didn't get bed sores.
What did you do for the 3 weeks? You must get bored.
Well, actually, again, the NHS looked after me pretty well and made sure that I was in a side room, and instead of kind of having visitors locked to, the specific hours, they just said that I could have anyone whenever I wanted. basically. So I don't think there was any point that I didn't have anyone in there.
I think that's probably something that
Which
people
is
have
actually,
done.
which was actually a lot of the reasons why, for me, it went so quick, because I was always had people in there and I always had positiveness around me, that it did become a laugh, even though it was quite a bad situation. I mean, I've got pictures of my mum like emptying my wee bag and like finding it hilarious.
Okay.
And it's at the time it was just trying to make things that were not so great.
Yeah.
Just trying to make it fun, and I think I've tried to keep that approach all the way through my rehab. And like you say, if you don't laugh, you'll cry.
And is that something that you've even taken forward to today? Because, like, you know, it pales in comparison, but you'll still have bad days training and stuff like that. Is kind of finding the humour in day-to-day life something that kind of keeps your outlook pretty positive?
Yeah, definitely. I think it again puts things into perspective. Before I crashed, I used to get so uptight about a bad training session, or I'd have a bad start and then I'd like nearly be in tears, and I just think, oh my God, what on earth was I doing? Like, why was I so uptight? Whereas now, don't get me wrong, it still annoys me if I have a bad set of starts, but I think I've just realised that it's not the end of the world, and I'm not gonna sort of die, I guess, if I don't do 7-0 to the quarter.
I think I think on like the NHS is a really interesting point, and I've kind of learned it from you just now and from Justin especially, is that, like, you know, when you want a GP's appointment, they're pretty shit.
Yeah.
But when there's something serious like spinal, liver transplant,
they're absolutely on it.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that doesn't always translate down, so that's quite a cool story to tell as well, is that don't get too annoyed about not getting a GP's appointment in a month.
I thought it was British Cycling who sorted it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people
did it.
Yeah, a lot of people did, but again, all the physio that I had in the first year, I guess sort of the physio to get back from, you know, just living a normal life, that was all actually NHS as well. So credit to the NHS. I'm a big fan over here.
Fan, yeah. So when did the whole UK sports system start picking up your care, I guess?
So that kind of started in May 2017. So this was actually over a year after I'd crashed. I was deemed fit enough and stable enough to begin the process of transitioning from a normal person, I guess, back into an athlete.
Yeah.
And we had to wait this long because we had to wait for the bone graft to heal, and we had to wait for everything to actually be in a position to allow force to basically go through my body. So as of May 2017, I headed off to Bisham Abbey. Again, waving the flag for Bisham Abbey. The IRU unit run by the BOA down in Marlow, and it was there that I spent 9 months to get me back in shape to join the cycling team again.
But was your thinking always to ride your bike again, to be competitive again, or was it were you just using it as rehab, or were you always thinking, I want to compete again?
Again, it was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to compete, but I just took, I know it sounds cheesy, but you have to take each day as it comes, and it was just a case of seeing how far I could take it, because from now on, anywhere I got to was a bonus.
So can you talk us through the intensive rehab unit and what that means? Because I think a lot of people listening to the podcast, you know, you might find a bit of a commonality in athletes that have got long-term injuries, or even not. I think David Smith ended up there for quite a while as well.
Did, yeah.
You'll see them all grouped together in this in this I want to call it a spa, this country house outside of London. So can you take us through what that special place is, I guess?
So Bisham Abbey is literally, I guess what it says on the tin, it is an intensive rehab unit, and there's only 3 athletes per week that are allowed into the unit, and basically the care is near enough 2-to-1 ratio. So there's a gym coach, a physio, a psychologist, a doctor, a nutritionist, who basically work together and tailor the program specifically to you. So in the sense that you say it was a bit like a spa, I guess it's sort of all the athletes who came down there, sort of you do group together because you're all in the same boat, you're all injured and you all want to get back to your sport. So you've really got something in common, and I think that's why I found it such a productive environment, because I was being driven day to day, not only by the staff down there, which are incredible, but also fellow athletes, and amongst Olympic champions, people that went on to the Winter Olympics. I actually met athletes from over 15 different sports. So it was it was social as well. So
yeah, but I'm gonna bring it back away from the spa a little bit, because I think probably quite a similar analogy is, you know, when I was an athlete, you tell people you get weekly or twice weekly massages. They go, oh, that sounds nice, pretty nice, and you'd be like, no, it's really quite painful.
yeah,
I remember like dripping with sweat because you're just trying to not tense up the whole
Get
time.
an elbow in your legs.
An elbow in your legs, but like we can call it a spa, but you're working.
yeah, definitely. I mean,
There's a lot of pain.
It's in the title. It's intense. I think every day we started at 8:30 in the morning, and it would begin with analysing your sleep watch to see how efficient you were. And Beck's Toon was very adamant if you had below 80%, then that wasn't a good night's sleep. They then tested hydration levels, so we'd bring a wee sample over to check that was all good, and we'd then fill out the scale as out of 10. Is it the EPC?
Could be.
EPE?
I don't know.
Oh,
RPE. RPE. Oh my god, I should know that really, shouldn't I?
That's
rate of perceived. Oh no, that's
exertion,
during
that's
a
in
session.
the session.
Anyway, just a sort of pre-session to see sort of where we had DOMs and things like that. And then the program actually ran pretty intensive from 8:30 until 4 in the afternoon, with only an hour for lunch. So it was kind of 2 physio sessions a day, 2 to 3 gym sessions, and then sort of physio sessions slotted in around that, a psychology session, the odd bike session. So it was pretty flat stick every day. And like you say, the massage is not pleasant, and definitely wasn't for me at the time. I remember one of the first things that happened when I went down there. James Moore is the brains behind the RU, who is an incredible human. Anyone who's met him. I remember he stuck some needles in my back, and I just remember tears literally streaming down my face and through the physio bed, and I thought, this is day one.
Yeah, because I think sometimes there's a bit of, you know, sports physio with sports masseuses, like sports anything, they're a little bit like sadistic sometimes. Like as soon as they get the all clear from the doctor or the physio, they don't hold back. Like they go straight in.
They enjoy it, yeah.
And it's probably where the crossover between NHS and performance athlete comes, because they know that you can take a lot more, and they know that you're willing to take a lot more to get back to where you were. So how much do you think that was an influence in terms of accelerating your recovery?
I think it was a big difference. The Rob Sheridan, who actually looked after me again through the NHS, he again quickly found out that I needed sort of more than, I guess, what the average person would need, and that just my ability to learn and adapt was a lot quicker as well. He'd give me an exercise, and then within 3 days I would have mastered it, and it would be like, right, we need a new stimulus, on to the next thing.
And that would be a kind of personal day-by-day challenge for you as well, to master it and then say, what have you got next? Yeah,
definitely. And again, at the time, that it seemed like quite a big deal for me, but I was kind of each week, as I went into a hydro session on a Friday, this was before I went to Bisham, I was just trying to nail the exercise that he'd given me the week before, which might have been as simple as, I don't know, reaching my toes or something like that.
And then I guess the final step in that kind of the cover, well, I guess it never ends, but the more or less final step is when you start reintegrating in Manchester. So how much of a win was that for you, thinking where you'd come from, going through the IRU. Yeah, that's a rugby team, isn't it? To finally getting back at Manchester, like back to where it all began, and it's almost like you're kind of coming back into the team for the first time again, except, you know, hopefully I had a bit more muscle mass by then.
Yeah. No, that was
and Phil was a little bit fatter.
That was a massive achievement for me, and I think it was something that I always had in the back of my mind, but it was never as certain, and I think a lot of people aren't aware of that. Along the process of me being at Bisham, there were markers and goals that I had to hit in order to even continue the rehab process at Bisham, and it was the same for the final stint after I had the screws removed in about November 2017, or I think October, sorry. I had until January, I had a load of gym targets, so I think it was a 125 for one squat, 150 kilo hip thrust, and 120 kilo RDL for one rep, and things like that. And those were markers that sort of British Cycling had set and said, you know, you need to hit these if you are going to be able to come back with the team, and that you've got kind of the strength that it takes to make it back on the bike.
Because people don't realise how precarious that contract can be. Because I guess it's kind of at their, it says in there they can get rid of you with 3 months' notice, with more or less no reason at all. I guess I don't think there was ever any kind of negative element in there where you're thinking, shit, I need to do this to stay on the squad. But I think people don't necessarily realise how precarious a position can be as a long-term injured athlete as well.
Yeah.
So shout out to them for sticking by you. And
massively. Again, thanks for British Cycling who kept me on funding, I guess, for quite a long period of time, and obviously funded me to go down to Bisham Abbey, which again is, I'm sure, costs quite a bit of
We're
money.
athletes, we don't need to think about the cost. It's like when your bike breaks, just give it to the mechanic. I don't know how much it costs.
They obviously kept the faith in me and have backed me from the beginning. So thanks to them for backing me.
I know you said kind of coming back into Manchester was a little bit like when you maybe talent transferred, but like things are actually quite similar now as to where they were in the lead up to Rio, I guess, in a couple of ways. So the women's team is struggling a little bit with qualification again. Mm-hmm. It's still as immensely competitive as it was in the first place. How do you see your kind of challenge progressing now at the moment? Like where how are things looking for Tokyo 2020?
Again, I think we've got a lot of work on our hands as a female team. Katie's looking like she'll qualify her place for Tokyo, but we're sort of in a fight to qualify, I guess, the second individual spot. And in terms of team sprint, I think the coaches have worked out, and we would actually have to podium at every World Cup and the World Champs, which is a pretty hard stretch. So I think
that's a really good season to manage that. Yeah.
So we'll see, but I think the direction maybe might change, and we kind of might be aiming for individual spots as opposed to aiming for the team sprint. But I think this is all to be decided. But
so this kind of pulls me into Kevin Stewart's question, which I know you've been waiting for. Who's Vic's?
I've been waiting for it.
Ex-coach now, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he said that when you went to the World Championships that have just passed, I guess everyone kept saying to you, remember how far you've come, and you were basically saying, fuck that. I need to be on the top step of the podium, which I think is quite endearing in a way, and it's kind of what you're saying now. Like
I think I remember saying it to you actually when you saw me in track centre, and I was just fuming.
But it's kind of what we're talking about now. Like we're not talking about making sure that your back stays in one piece. We're talking about making it to the Olympic Games. Is that still at the forefront of your mind? It's not. You're not here just to participate. You're here to win, I guess.
Yeah. That's a good question, Kev. I knew it'd be a good one. I was waiting for it.
I elaborated on it a lot more than he did.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, it was great to be selected for the Worlds. I wasn't in the best of health, but again, I was not going to turn down an opportunity that I'd effectively worked for 3 years for. But I was just so disappointed because, as I've said, and this was why I was so wound up at the time, I've not come back to just participate and just be part of the team and, get to the Olympics and just be an Olympian, or just to be a GB cycling team member. I want to come back and I want to win. So although I had so much support, I guess, like you say, saying, oh, you've come so far, I was a bit narrow-minded and a bit just like, I didn't want to hear it. And like you say, I was just fuming. I was like, I've had enough of people almost feeling sorry for me. And that's what I've sat and talked about the crash and stuff, but I don't want the sympathy vote. Like now I'm an athlete and I'm not on the start line with a card that says, oh, by the way, I've got a dodgy back. I'm on the start line and
there's a few athletes with that. maybe not quite as bad, but
I'm on the same level playing field as everyone else. I've just had a bit of a longer route, I guess, to get there. So I appreciate the support and stuff, but for me, I just want to be the best that I can be, and I didn't work for 3 years to be a participant and be average.
I think that's maybe a bit of a shame.
I don't know.
No, I think
without being horrible to, I guess, people that have supported me and stuff.
There's two sides to it, because I remember thinking, like, it made me think a lot when you basically said, like, I'm not here to participate, I'm here to win, because I was like, well, that's exactly what I'd want.
Yeah.
And I think, again, going into athlete mentality, it's quite difficult to explain that, like, I mean, athletes always want to, like, push things on fast forward when they should be going in play, I guess. They're always kind of like, you know, I'm good to go, let's go. It's like where you're all the way back in the hospital and you're saying, take a picture of me, I'm ready to go. So I've just got a few broken ribs, I'll be back in Rio next week.
Yeah.
It's like there's a constant impatience with athletes to always get going and always get back and get winning. So I understand where you're coming from, and especially when you're on the, you know, the biggest competition of the year, it makes total sense. But I think on the other hand, like, your story is inspirational, and it's worth taking into account how far you've come given the really dark place that you were at, I guess. Yeah. It's a real balance, I think. So I think it comes from a genuine place. I don't think it's sympathy. Yeah. I think it's admiration when people say that.
Yeah, I know it's a bit harsh. Again, people don't take this the wrong way, please. People that have supported
Stop admiring me.
Yeah. But I just want to prove that, I guess, all the people's time and hard work and all the team down at Bisham, I just want to prove that it was worth it. And I think because I've had so much help from so many people, the thing that would really top it off to say thanks would be to get an Olympic medal and to be part of the team for Tokyo. So
I guess you've got 6 months now to make the World Cups and prove your point there to make the team, and hopefully win the gold medal in Rio. Yeah,
that's the plan anyway. But like you say, you then go back to if I don't make it and I don't make the Tokyo team, then, you know, I can't be too disheartened. But at the same time, if I don't make the team, I will be very disheartened. But And I
remember conversations I have with my mum or my family, and they'll say something like, "Oh, you've done so well anyway," and you'd be like, "Fuck off."
Yeah, I'm sure I would. Again, it would take me a while to get over it. But I'd look at the wider picture and go, you know what, I've actually come quite a way. Anything's a bonus from now on, and I think that's the attitude that, particularly in this next 6 months, I need to carry forward and make sure that on a daily basis I reflect back on that, so that the mental pressure doesn't become too much. Because again, at the World Champs, it was all the pressure that I'd built up in my head as well, which is why I literally had a fit off the start line and saw Katie's wheel disappear very quickly from me. I just built it up in my head. I put so much pressure on myself, and again, I think that can't be underestimated. And it's not from external pressures. It wasn't the coaches, you know, that were there on the start line, Jan saying, "Come on, you've got to do this, you've got to do this." It's the pressure that you build up in your head because you want to do so well, so badly, that you can almost, you want it almost too much, I guess.
Yeah, I guess the athletes put the most pressure on ourselves.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely.
They always do, yeah. Well, I mean, if you don't last very long, I think. But I guess my final question would be, I've always find this one a really tricky one to pitch as a question. But obviously, like, I you know, not to put it in the same context as you, but I feel like I've had my fair share of kind of shit thrown at me at times as well. But it kind of going through that experience and getting through the other side makes you stronger as a person. And I think especially when sport, as you said, it puts you into perspective.
Yeah.
Is there any positives like to have brought from this whole experience? Like, do you walk into do you walk into training every day and think like nothing else can get me down because I've got through this?
Not often enough. I don't think I don't draw back on it enough. Or do
you even think you can draw some strength from adversity? I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think again, not only physically am I actually stronger than what I was before, but it's the mental aspect of stuff, and there are still blips that I have, and again, getting annoyed when I don't do the 7-0 to the quarter and stuff like that. But overall, I think I'm a lot more chilled and definitely not so much of a pit bull as what I used to be. I would say I was quite...
I wouldn't say you were like that.
I don't know.
That's why Cian had such a soft spot for it.
I'd say I was just quite uptight and over the smallest things and stuff, which then meant that, you know, your recovery is affected and things like that. But my resilience and pain threshold is definitely
must be sky high,
improved. So that means that, again, my ceiling, I guess, must have lifted, and hopefully means that I can be better than before. I've just got to work out how to pedal with half my psoas missing. Kev will like that, the psoas.
What is the psoas?
I don't know.
The hip flexor, because I tore my psoas off.
Oh, you've
which
torn
is
it
quite
off.
Which was quite important for cycling.
So it's not there anymore.
I have got one, but I've just lost quite a lot of my QL muscle as well.
Thomas Babek's missing some of his quad. Did you know that?
No.
You know this.
Yeah, he showed me it before, but I don't know why.
He had a
car
big
crash or
accident.
something,
Yeah.
didn't
So yeah.
Yeah, it's quite. Have you not seen the fold in my back from where?
I'm
I've
sure.
seen
I'm
it,
sure
yeah.
we'll see
Yeah.
it immediately after this podcast.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
But yeah, no, thank you very much for coming on.
No,
And,
thank
like,
you.
I've learned so much more about that, and kind of I think got a new kind of admiration for what you've come from and where you're
Thanks.
heading to. Genuinely.
Yeah, thanks for having
Thank
us.
you very
And
much.
if you want to shout out your Instagram or whatever,
Or Under Armour.
Oh
Under
yeah.
Armour,
Thank
Bio
you
Oil.
as well. Yeah, Under Armour, obviously, best sponsor ever. Yeah, and at Vix Williamson is my Instagram, Twitter
Very good.
handle. So
Right.
yeah, thanks guys.
LinkedIn,
Perfect.
Facebook.
Not got so many followers on Facebook.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
about you guys.
No, I don't either. No
No, I
one
don't
bothers with
know.
that anymore.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Right, perfect. Thanks.
Thanks.